Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are excited to have you here today. We're here to have, it's all about helping you stay ahead of the curve when it comes to the UPC code changes. Rod is going to give us insight to that and how it could impact your business. So whether you're just getting started or you've been in business for years, this session will definitely provide you keys and updates for actionable tips to stay ahead of the curve. Before we let him take it away though, we would not be able to have these webinars without our sponsors and our featured members. So today we just want to give a big shout out to our featured sponsor, BMO, and we recognize that they are so valuable to these webinar series. They have a deep commitment to empowering individuals, businesses, and communities. BMO goes beyond banking to create real progress. Whether it's supporting entrepreneurs or investing in local economic growth, BMO leads with purpose, inclusion, and innovation. Their partnership helps us to continue to deliver impactful programming to resources to Nebraska businesses. So thank you again, BMO, for believing in bold dreams and strong communities. Now I'm going to throw it over to Tanya to tell us all about our featured member.
Yeah, our featured member is Old Market Sundries. They've been a member of Grow since 2005, so a little over 10 years. And they are in the old market in Omaha and the historic part, and they've just have a lot of fun and unique items in their shop. And so definitely encourage you to go check them out. They are all about creating unique experiences, making memories, and then you can shop for yourself, or if you're looking for a fun, quirky gift, just stop on by and support local. And they're just right in Omaha. Um, but I want to get us started. We're super excited about learning just about these big changes happening. And so, Roy, I'm going to pass it on over to you and let you take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Glad everyone could join us. There are some really big changes going on in the industry. A lot of people aren't aware of them yet. It's called Sunrise 2027. And let me go ahead and pull this up if I can do that. Let's see. Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Bear with me just a second here. Uh,
And while Roy is getting his graphics pulled up, you'll notice that we've already started some conversation in the chat. And so please feel free as you go along. If you have any questions, put them in there. We're happy to get them answered today. And then, yeah, if Roy asks you a question, interaction in the chat is always encouraged, and you can be as specific as you want. So really dive into what your business can get out of this presentation.
Tanya, did that come up?
It hasn't come up yet.
Oh,
If you press that green share and then the blue share button, that should pop that screen up.
okay.
There we go. It's pulling up here now.
Let's see.
And then we see your desktop, so we don't see the PowerPoint yet. Perfect. All right, we see the PowerPoint on that full screen.
Good. Technology is wonderful when it works. So, okay, we'll start out here. We're talking about Sunrise 2027. It's going to impact every item that let me preface that. It'll impact about 98% of the items that sit on a shelf retail today. So what's going to happen is today everyone has a UPC code on their products on the shelf. The transition is to a 2D barcode. A little bit of history. A lot of you may know this, some may not. The traditional UPC is made up of a series of different characters with the manufacturer and product specific information. Little other history, 1973 was the first year that the UPC was started. Is actually on a Juicy Fruit gum package. And first scan was at Marsh Supermarket in Ohio. So that was basically 51 years ago, which is not that long ago. This is a little bit of a condensed timeline. I couldn't get it to come out any cleaner, but just gives you a little bit of history. Here's some examples of where we are today. Traditional 1D barcodes, which are barcode 39, 128, and this ENI 13. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the QR codes or two-dimensional barcodes. They hold an enormous more amount, a lot more data than the traditional UPC codes. A lot of times on these two-dimensional barcodes, you can actually cut them in half or tear them, and they still read fine. So, what's driving this is a lot more data and new technologies. So here's some other examples. If you look down below here on the left-hand side, what you'll see is where we are today, the traditional UPC code. What's going to be acceptable in the next year or so is you'll probably see the UPC code and this QR code, and eventually you'll go to just the regular QR code. So that's going to be kind of the transition. My guess is this will probably linger into later on in 2027. But like I said, anyone who has something that sits on a shelf that is sold through retail, this will impact you. So you want to be aware of that. So you say, what's driving all the changes? A lot of things. Today a UPC code is just a fixed number. Doesn't really tell you anything else. It's just a kind of a placeholder number associated with that item. So what's the big move for? Well, if you have a food item, anything that's date and lot sensitive, pet foods, today when those are manufactured, they usually have a best by date on or a manufactured date on them. For food traceability, it's gotten to be a big deal. It's going to get to be more of a big deal as we move forward. So you can't really do any of that traceability with a traditional UPC code today. So the move is to the 2D, which will carry more of this data. And I'll talk about this a little bit further. Let's see, I'm going to move that up there. Okay, just to give you an idea of the amount of data the 1D barcodes can handle today opposed to the 2D, just look at that. I mean, just enormous amount more data. There's going to be a requirement for updated scanners. Errors and corrections will be a lot lower. Today, it's relatively low cost to get a scanner in to deal with the UPCs. It's going to be a little bit of an investment for all the retail locations moving forward. Like I said, why move to the 2D transparency? Supply chain. There's going to be a real focus on food safety, date, lot. Just a lot of different things will go into this. Today, a lot of the packaging and labeling projects I work on for customers, I always encourage them to put a QR code on there that will take the customer right to that product's web page or story. It's a great way to connect with customers. A lot of times I'll see people connect that right to their newsletter page and people can sign up for that. So the 2D barcodes are going to have a lot more data. Actually, you're going to be able to use that in addition to traceability, there'll probably be marketing campaigns tied to that. They'll probably change quarterly or monthly, depends upon what your requirements are. But it's going to allow a lot more customer engagement with that product, and that's a side effect. So marketing is kind of a side effect of what's going to really be included on the 2D barcodes. Getting ready for the transition, awareness, education, just talking with people, seeing, if you have a co-packer, if they're equipped to do this. It's a big deal. It's going to require some changes and it's some great opportunities. And I think it'll be a little bit of work up front. The GS1 will still manage the database, so you still need to get your QR codes from them. Key dates to remember, and we see people working on this already, early adopters. It sounds crazy, but Walmart, Kroger, they're all talking about it and using it in their playbooks. Actually, they'll use it to separate suppliers at some point in time. You either have that capability or you don't. It's going to require infrastructure updates, scanners, software, compatibility, gradual adoption to the 2D barcodes. They've got a wish date of January 1, 2027. It's going to be a pretty hefty lift, but they don't put a date out there. It just never happens. So that's kind of the target date. So, but understand the history of the UPCs and where it's going and the reasons behind that are a big deal right now. How to prepare for Sunrise 2027, take an assessment of what you have today. Talk to your retail partners, see what they want, see if they're actually involved and moving towards new equipment, new scanners, requirements. I call that engagement with your stakeholders. Train your team, update packaging and labeling. It's going to be kind of a crawl, walk, run scenario. Should be relatively easy. It will be a change. You want to test, probably a pilot program. Make sure you understand the QR codes and how to use that, and then communicate with customers and folks on your team. And that pretty much talks a lot to Sunrise 2027. DFI did a marketing promotional piece to illustrate some of the other changes in the marketplace right now. And some of you may and may not have heard of RFID labels. This is getting to be a big deal in the market. Walmart and Kroger both have big mandates. I believe Kroger has a mandate by the end of this year. They want at least your pallets coming into them with an RFID label, if not the product label. We actually have the ability to incorporate the RFID label into the prime label that goes onto your product. We prefer to print the whole process. We can actually take your existing labels and insert that or onset that into that label. Here's a couple different examples, and you can see these today in Walmart's. I don't know if Kroger has them in there yet, but Walmart's, you can go to automotive section and you'll start noticing some of these RFID tags. This is in the auto section. We call this a flag tag because RFID labels, tags, readers, the chips don't do well with liquids. Liquids and steel products are really tough. So if you notice, this is actually up above the product liquid line, and that scans very well. If you look at this, on this chemical guys, we actually have that tag up above the liquid line on that. Just some unique ways to do that. So if you have a challenge or an opportunity that you like to discuss, let me know. There's more than one way to skin a cat. This RFID stuff is coming down the pike pretty rapidly as well. So if you have a product that goes into big retail, Kroger, Walmart, they all have playbooks on requirements. I can share those with you as well. We're doing a number of applications with them, so we can definitely help you out there. So with that said, that's kind of what I've got for Sunrise 2027. Like I said, it's coming up quick. If you have a product on the shelf, it's going to impact you I would suggest you at least start the discussion and start planning on that. You got a little bit of time, but it's a fun time in the market. The other thing is I want to share with you is, and I'm going to see if I can go back one here. Okay. This is really unique. If you have a food product like a seasoning or a rub, 2028 is a really big date because these are going to have to be serialized. Today, you'll typically see a Best By or made by date on the bottle. This actually has to carry that serialized number and date on there, which is going to be a challenge for a lot of people. It's going to allow the stores to determine obsolete inventory, rotation of their stock. It's going to allow them to literally, instead of hiring people to walk up and down and take notes in inventory, they're actually going to use a scanning gun and walk up and down the aisle and determine what's there. And they'll be able to tell how old it is to rotate that stuff up to the front. It's going to be pretty powerful. So just wanted to share that with you. That's a little snippet on what's coming down the pike as far as in the marketing and packaging and labeling space. But I'm going to give this presentation to Tanya to send out to everyone that would like a copy. If you have questions, feel free to drop me an email. I always get back to everyone. Sometimes it takes me a day or so, but it's a great time to have a conversation on packaging and labeling and what the future brings.
Yes, no, thank you. And I will make sure to include the PowerPoint in the recording, but we do have quite a few questions here, so I can just kind of go down the list. The first question is, we have a UPC barcode for the one product we sell, though I'm unsure where her dad bought it. I'm excited to switch over to a QR. She would like to see if it's okay if they embed their logo in the middle of the QR code when they switch over, or if there's just like a kind of regulation that they can't do that.
Well, from what I understand is the GS1 is going to control that. And for this date lot and UPC stuff, you're not going to be able to do that. If it's a traditional QR code for marketing only purposes, you can do that. But I do not think that the GS1 will do that because they really don't do that with UPC codes today, other than the fact that once in a while you can see one made as like a state outline or something. And that's kind of a gray area because anything that affects the scannability, they don't like to touch that.
Awesome.
So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Let us know if you have kind of a specific kind of follow-up to that. But our next question is, are we able to still use the old barcode, or do we have to change to the QR code at some point?
The new QR code is going to be the requirement.
Okay.
If you're selling in a retail store.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our next one is, they print their own labels. What software will they need to generate a 2D barcode?
That is a great question that I did not speak about. We actually sell printers and software, so we can help you with that. Your traditional printers today might be able to do that. This new two-dimensional barcode. A lot of people today have what we call 203 DPI print heads in their printers. That is right on the line. If there's some question on scannability, the thought process is you should really go to a 300 DPI print head because the readability is going to be a lot better. You don't want to do anything to impact your readability. In a lot of these new printers, we sell the print heads as well to many of these. A lot of these new printers, it's not necessarily buying a new printer. It's just buying a new print head. So it could be as easy as that. But we can help you with software to do that as well. So
perfect. Our next question is, do batch or the lot numbers have to be embedded, or is it just something that will be available? It seems that different packages would have to be printed really frequently if you have pre-printed packaging.
That is a great question. And today, when this, as we roll into this for 2027, they're really still determining that, because the reason they're doing this is for more control. By 2028, these will be serialized. So it's a great question, because I'll give you an example. Say someone buys 100,000 barbecue labels today, they buy it with a UPC code on there, 1. In 2028, they're going to have to buy that, and it's going to be 1 through 100,000. And you're going to have to tie that at your co-packer to a date and lot. So you'll be able, so there's going to be a lot of data that's going to have to be managed with all of these applications. It's really a big deal. So you're going to be required to manage your data in a different way that you do today. So if you got, I'll give you an example. If you got 24 different rubs and sauces, and they're all food products, you're going to have to manage the data in 2028 on those. Either you will or your co-packer will. So if the co-packer does that, say if they come to someone like us and want a 2-dimensional barcode on there that's serialized, we'll go, I would accept an order from a customer. We'll give you a number 1 through 100,000 on this run. The next run is 101,000 to 200,000, and then so on. So what'll happen there is your co-packer will either need to manually keep track of that for you. We will naturally keep a record of what we produced, but that's got to be tied to your made on date. So your current co-packer will either have to manually keep a record of that, or have scanners on there, which would replace their current date and lot equipment. Does that make sense?
And Jennifer, let us know if there's a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, and feel free to email me also. There's a lot of stuff, and I may not know the exact answer every time, but I can get one for you. So
Awesome. Our next question is, can we keep like the old barcode numbers that were purchased previously, or are people going to have to repurchase different numbers for these QR codes?
don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Matter of fact, let me write that down, because I'm assuming, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Okay. And then I think the next question was pretty similar, asking if they'll have to buy these codes through GS1. Will we be able to buy these codes through GS1, or are the GS1 codes kind of defunctional after a certain?
Well, GS1's going to manage that, so you'll still need to buy from them. And I think it's going to be a requirement to buy from them, because they've managed all this before. I don't see any of that changing. The real question down the road, when this serialization stuff happens, who's going to manage the database on that? Is it going to be GS1 for you, that where we would send them an acknowledgement with the numbers we ran, and then your co-packer sends the numbers that coordinates the date and fill rates? Or does your co-packer handle that all for you? That's still kind of a little bit up in the air, but one way or another, it's going to be serialized. It's going to be tied to your product with a manufacturer date.
Okay.
And that's all with the safe food and handling requirements that are coming down the pike. It's kind of being done today, where you use a traditional UPC code, your co-packer, as they fill or bottle your product, they'll spray a date and lot number on there so they can trace that for accountability. The goal is to be able to scan that and have all that data at your fingertips in case of recall information. So say someone has a bad, salmonella in their product or something like that. They want to be able to access that data really fast. And in addition to this, marketing will be a side animal to this. So you'll actually be able to do some marketing as well with this, and probably drive them to your website as well. Um, they'll be it handles like 200 times more data than the UPC, and it's live data. Hopefully that answers your question.
Then someone was wondering if there is a link to read more about these regulations.
Yeah, I tell you what, if anyone wants to send me an email or I'm trying to think, I tell you what, I can send you, when I send you this PowerPoint, I'll send you a couple different PDFs that are just kind of informational. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, but I've got 2 or 3 sheets that really have good discussion on what's going to happen. So, and the GS1 is the absolute truth on all this stuff, but there's so much information to read. I've got a couple of sheets. We kind of narrowed it down to quick, easy reading. So
yeah, perfect. I'll make sure to get those in there. And then
yeah.
we have I think a few more still coming in, but if they are getting new packaging printed soon, and don't want the plates to be obsolete, does GS1 have the new codes available now? That way they can do the transition to have both types of codes now. Will they make any other changes between now and 2027? They just would like to make the changes as soon as possible.
Let me check.
Perfect.
I don't know. I don't know for sure that answer, but I would think that, with this coming down the pike, anyone that's wanting to make a transition, and it's not here's the twist. It's not necessarily the product owner, it's your retail people are going to drive that. Because if you get this all done and change the 2D barcode and your retailer doesn't have the scanners and stuff in place, it goes nowhere. So your customer, your retailer will tell you when they're ready. And I would be asking them now, do you have the ability to handle both these codes? And then do you have the ability, if we put a new GS1 QR code on there and I have my own marketing QR code, is there conflict? Do they have to be an inch or 2 apart on the packaging? Those are all things that need to be probably asked with your end customer or your retail customer.
And we have one more question. The data in the code depends on the product. I think she's just clarifying that. And then they sell an art hand tool. So she said, I imagine that required data is different than for like food. So are there different regulations depending on if it's food, cosmetic, just a tool?
Yeah. If it's cosmetic, pharma, veterinary is just like food. It's date and lot specific. Items that are like a tool like that, they may be in the 2% that don't need it, but I would think you would want the 2-dimensional QR code because you're going to want to link to your site and stuff for marketing information. It may not be required on there. Your retailer will really let you know what's required. So hopefully that helps. And if there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Yes, I'll make sure to put Roy's email in the follow-up email. That way, if anything if you think of anything after.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Well,
Very
I'm
good.
not seeing any other questions, so I'll let oh, we got one more in.
All right.
how are small companies gonna absorb these costs?
Well, that's a good question. Your retailer is going to tell you, you know, the QR code, the two-dimensional barcode. If you're a food item, there is going to be some costs involved. And you got one of two ways. You can either absorb it or pass it on. There's just no other place to go with it. If you sell enough of your product, your retailer is going to demand you have it. And it's just going to be a cost of goods. It's going to be a cost you have to carry, and then you'll have to weigh, does it make sense for me to pay for this to be in that retailer? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be yes, because all your competitors will be in there. But if you're a smaller business and you sell on a smaller basis, you may just need the traditional 2D card or 2D barcode or 2D QR code without all the data. But let me preface that a little bit. The small organizations, the small businesses that are doing like commercial kitchens in their homes, that's going to be a real challenge because you're going to have to, even though you do 100 or 200 or 300, you're still got to manage the data the same way that someone who does 100,000 at a time. So they're going to have to come up with a standardized platform to handle that, and I'm not sure what that is yet. And my guess is it'll probably be GS1. I just don't know that yet. You know, this is going to evolve a lot over the next year and a half. The RFID will be a big deal, but the two-dimensional barcodes and how small businesses handle it, it's going to be a challenge for some of us.
And then they had a follow-up to the question. So to serialize this is going to, so to serialize this is going to be a cost to, like, they're going to have to change like labels every batch with their co-packer or even an at-home person.
Well, they'll be serialized so you can still have the same batch of labels. I'll give you an example on that. Say if there's a small barbecue company that does runs of 10,000 labels at a time. When they get to where they serialize this, it's the same label with everything else on there, all those bits of data, but it will have a sequential number from 1 to 10,000. The next order will be 10,001 to 20,000. So yeah, and you want to keep those in order, because when you run those or have your co-packer do those, you're going to have to sign a date lot to that as well. Today they do it with a inkjet. A lot of places do, and they spray that on there. Someone's going to have to manage that database moving forward, and that's probably not till 2028. But I expect if they get everything done with Sunrise 2027, that's the next evolution. That's next in line. So hopefully that helps. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to send me an email.
Perfect.
Hopefully this has helped.
Thank you, Roy. I think you've been most helpful in just helping us kind of understand what is coming and how we can maybe start planning for the future now. You guys, I suspect we're going to have Roy on again in the future, the closer this gets to launching and even as more information comes out. If you do come up with follow-up questions, you can reach out directly to Roy or pass it on to Tanya and I, and we're happy to kind of keep getting those questions answered. Thank you again for being on today and for sharing the huge UPC changes that are in the near future. We also have more upcoming training, so join us next week as we will go over how to create a month content in just one single day. We are bringing in Jasmine Stock, who was at Market Tech for any of those who joined us in March. She does a fabulous job. So this is one where if you are in charge of social media or you want to know how to be more efficient with planning your content, be sure to join us, get registered for that. And then on July 17th, it's navigating successful shipping. That is also going to be a great lineup where we have Aaron and Kirk Mauser with the Fat Boy barbecue, and they are going to just go over how you can do it and how you can do it successfully, whether that is making sure your package arrives there in the right condition or how you can save money. It's going to be a wonderful tips and tricks that you can learn from. So those are just two that are coming up. Be sure to check out grownebraska.org for all of our trainings. They're scheduled out all the way through November. And if you have a topic that you would like us to find an expert on, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is on the screen. We would love to hear from you and know what topics interest you the most. So thanks again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you.